This is the East Coast Express, leaving Newcastle and heading toward London in the winter of 1878. On board is a man named Joseph Swan. He's carrying a box. Inside is a glass bulb. He believes it holds the future, a way to light homes with electricity, replacing fossil fuels and open flames. What he doesn't know is that across the Atlantic, another man has already filed a patent, and by the time Swan arrives in London, the future he's holding may already belong to someone else. For years, Joseph Swan had worked alone in Newcastle. He was a prodigy, majoring in chemistry and physics. He had an amazing idea, something that can revolutionize how people lived. You see, Britain has just gotten the first electric grid in the entire world, capable of supplying electricity to many homes at a time. Joseph wanted to use this as an opportunity to light up homes in a better way and replace the old, traditional methods of burning gas. In around 1850, Joseph began experimenting with carbonized paper filaments sealed inside glass bulbs, trying to produce incandescent light, which is simply light emitted from heat. But this is where he hit his first roadblock. At that time, vacuum technology was quite primitive and incapable in creating a complete vacuum inside the bulbs. And if you don't know, creating an environment without gases like oxygen, which helps combustion, is a crucial step to making a working light bulb. Without being able to fully remove the air, the bulbs were short-lived and inefficient. Fast forward a decade to 1860, he succeeded in demonstrating a working device under partial vacuum and secured a British patent for a carbon filament lamp. Still, residual oxygen meant filaments burned out quickly and the glass interior blackened from soot caused by incomplete combustion. Additionally, the carbonized paper filaments he used were made of low-resistance carbon rods, which essentially meant that it required tremendous amounts of energy, leading to heavy copper wiring and impractical setups. But Joseph didn't give up. He kept experimenting with different materials. He tried carbonized cotton, wood, even cardboard for filaments. The problem was most of these burned out quickly or broke under the heat. This demotivated him. Just as he was about to give up, a German scientist unknowingly had discovered a new type of vacuum pump called the Sprengel pump. This machine could suck out much more air than his homemade pumps, creating a stronger vacuum inside the bulb because there was less oxygen to burn them up. That meant the filaments lasted longer. He kept refining the design, and by early 1879, he lit up a room at the Literary and Philosophical Society in Newcastle, where over 700 people saw his incandescent lamp burn steadily for around over 40 hours, which was a massive step. Despite these successes, his bulbs still weren't perfect. The filaments weren't durable enough, and making them was expensive, so he kept searching for better materials. Around 1880, he invented what he called parchmentized thread, which is essentially a cotton thread that is treated with chemicals and is carbonized to create a stronger, longer-lasting filament. It made electric light practical for the first time, and Joseph was excited to get the entire world to use it and be recognized for his invention, which did not go quite as planned. Just parallel to Joseph in time was Thomas Edison. Across the Atlantic in Menlo Park, New Jersey, Edison wasn't working alone in a quiet lab. He had something Joseph never did, which was a full team of assistants, a few powerful investors, and a dedicated research facility to support his invention. He tested thousands of materials with his team, such as cardboard, platinum wire, coconut fiber, and even bamboo imported from Japan. By late 1879, he had built a bulb using a carbonized cotton filament in a strong vacuum, almost identical to what Swan had spent decades developing. He filed a U.S. patent and lit up the streets around Menlo Park for the media to see. To the public, it looked like Edison was the first person to have invented electric light, but this is far from the truth. When Swan arrived in London in 1878, he was ready to revolutionize lighting, but news of Edison's glowing bulbs had already crossed the Atlantic and reached him. Newspapers in London were calling Edison the Wizard of Light. Investors were already putting their money behind his electric lighting systems. Swan realized the race was no longer about invention, but rather about recognition, about who the world believed created it first. Swan was extremely frustrated and thought his idea was stolen. He challenged Edison's claims on who had invented first. As we talked earlier, he had the earlier patent, dated around 1860. He had already demonstrated working bulbs in public way before Edison. In 1882, Swan was on his last straw and eventually sued Edison for patent infringement in the UK. With there being more than enough evidence, the court sided with Swan. Edison had to admit that Swan's work had come first, at least in the UK. And rather than continue fighting, Swan had a logical idea. You see, instead of spending years fighting for and against these claims, it would be way easier to come into a mutual agreement, and this is exactly what happened in 1883, where they both combined their patents to form a new company, the Edison and Swan United Electric Light Company. This was Swan's way of finally being recognized for what he had started over 2 decades earlier. Soon, electric lights began replacing gas lamps across major cities. This first started from London and New York, and the bulb had become more than just a scientific achievement. It's both of their hard work finally being paid off. Now, even though their company had both of their names, Joseph Swan isn't a name most people remember. His original light bulbs are kept in museums today, and people walk past them without realizing what they're looking at is actually the first one ever made. While Edison became a global icon, Swan quietly went back to his hometown in Newcastle. He got some recognition later in his life, but he never became a household name like Edison. Still, he did what he set out to do. He made a light bulb that worked, and in the end, that was just enough for him.